On paper, Japan shouldn't be this healthy. Only 3% of Japanese people have gym memberships. Compare that to the 26% gym membership rate in America. And yet, only 4.5% of people in Japan are obese. While in America, the obesity rate is 42%. And I have a hunch that 4.5% of Japan that is fat is just sumo wrestlers and American tourists. Personally, I found this very concerning. These people have Burger King and McDonald's like we do. They drink way more alcohol than we do. They smoke twice as much as we do. And they don't even work out. So why on earth are they healthier than us? Ingredients. At first, I thought Japanese food was different, and in some ways it is. If you take a sample of McDonald's fries in the US, you would find out that it has 19 different ingredients. The Japanese version only has 3 ingredients: oil, potatoes, and salt. Then there's the burger itself. If you leave a typical Japanese Big Mac outside for, let's say 30 days, it will rot, which is absolutely expected, because a burger is made up of all sorts of perishable ingredients. But do you know what happens when you leave out an American Big Mac? You've probably seen this experiment before. Leave out a Big Mac for 30 days, and nothing really happens to it. That is obviously concerning. Food is supposed to go bad. It's kind of the whole point. Your food is supposed to be so yummy that all the bugs and bacteria in the room want to take a bite. That is the very reason your chicken spoils when you leave it out on the counter, or your bowl of rice starts smelling suspicious after sitting out overnight. But a Big Mac has been made decomposition proof somehow. And that is the scariest thing ever, because if bacteria are scared of touching your Big Mac, then maybe you should too. And before all the Big Mac fans decide to come for me, I'd like to refer to you to the viral video of McDonald's CEO being disgusted by his own burger.
Here as well, I see those kind of coming out. All right, the moment of truth.
It's almost like he was scared of the thing. You could tell this man had never had a Big Mac. And he definitely sped out that microbite the second the camera stopped rolling. Throughout the video, he kept referring to it as a product. And yes, while it is technically a product, it's also supposed to be food. Calling it a product is just nasty. So here's where it gets really interesting, because it's not just the fries or the burger patty. Almost everything here is nasty. Even seemingly minor things like the pickles on a Big Mac have been processed to hell and back. See, in America, that little pickle slice comes loaded with potassium sorbate, polysorbate 80, and sodium benzoate. These are preservatives designed to chemically block the natural breakdown of food. Japan's version? Vinegar and salt. That's it, the old school way. The way humans have been pickling food for literally thousands of years. But wait, it gets worse when you look at the bun. McDonald's buns in America have historically contained something called azodibicarbonide. And before you brush that off as another long ingredient name, here's the thing. That exact same chemical is also used to make yoga mats and rubber soles. Why is it in our burgers, you might ask? Well, it acts as a flour bleaching agent and dough conditioner. It makes the bread softer, lighter, fluffier, and gives it that bright, fresh look. Essentially makeup for the burger bun. The EU banned azodicarbonide from food entirely. Australia banned it as well. And yet, for years, Americans were eating it in their burger buns. The FDA's response to all this was very nonchalant. It's generally recognized as safe, which is a very long and official way of saying they're not entirely sure. And the cheese. Oh, the cheese. American processed cheese gets hit with sodium phosphates and anti-mold preservatives to keep it looking perfect on that burger for as long as possible. The Japanese version skips all of that, because Japan actually sets limits on how much synthetic processing cheese can go through. They built a system that refused to let these chemicals into the food supply in the first place. America built a system that asks, can you prove that it has killed anyone? Before saying no. Japan asks, can you prove it's absolutely safe? And that one difference in philosophy shows up in the bodies of an entire population. And all these extra moisture binding additives and chemical preservatives bring us back to a point we handled earlier. But it throws a lot more context into the mix. And that's the thing we said about the American Big Mac. Resisting rotting even after 30 days, whereas a Japanese Big Mac will rapidly grow mold and decompose if it's left out for too long. All these experimental chemicals are banned in Japan because before any additive is allowed anywhere near your food, it has to go through the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare. They run something called a positive list system, and that basically means that a substance must go through several tests and run before it can be used in any food product. Standard produce, you would think. And the US is probably doing that too, right? Well, it would be wrong to say that they aren't, because what else is the FDA for? But the issue is that there is a but. The FDA has something called GRAS, which stands for Generally Recognized as Safe. And to be honest, the idea sounds reasonable enough at first. For common things like salt, vinegar, and baking soda. You don't need a lengthy federal review every time someone bakes bread. But in 1997, the FDA started giving food and beverage companies the authority to self-certify that a new food chemical was safe. This was largely due to the fact that they did not have the mandatory review system, but let's quit the fooling around for a minute. Do we really think hundreds of food manufacturers are going to look at their own ingredients and go, yes, this may increase profits dramatically, but unfortunately my moral compass says no? That is like letting students grade their own papers and expecting anybody to give themselves a D. It's never gonna happen. It's the same with food companies. The FDA gave them guidelines, obviously, but since they were allowed to self-certify, they found a way around it. They even had a name for it. They called it the secret GRAS pathway, which kind of sounds like an evil villain's plan to take over the world, but it is just food companies finding ways to legally replace all the natural ingredients in your food with cheaper and potentially harmful experimental chemicals because those chemicals made them more money. And, this has had some terrible casualties over the year. Take potassium bromate, for example, a chemical linked to cancer. This is the same thing that has been banned in Japan and all over Europe and even Canada, but it's still present in American baked goods. And the FDA's position over the years has always remained, well, nobody's proven it's definitely killing people, so carry on. And that is disgusting to say the least, beyond additives. So we have our answer, right? Fewer ingredients must equal healthier food. Well, not quite. The story is a lot more twisted than that, because think about it. The EU has food regulations just as strict as Japan's. Azodicarbonamide, banned. Potassium bromate, gone. BHA and BHT, not welcome. They play tough and they play it well, but they're still fat. Now, Europeans are less fat than Americans, but they're still fat. Their obesity rates hover near 20%, almost 5 times higher than in Japan. So if strict food regulations were the whole answer, Europe would look a lot more like Japan. Doesn't, which means we've been solving for one variable in a much more complicated question. I believe the second variable is competition. Healthy convenience. Walk into any Japanese convenience store, and yes, I'm talking about even outlets like 7-Eleven, and you will have a full existential crisis about everything you thought you knew about fast food. In Japan, 7-Eleven sells onigiri, which is a rice ball wrapped in seaweed with a clean 3 or 4 ingredient list, for the equivalent of about $1. Fresh sushi, miso soup, grilled fish, hot green tea, all of it available at 2 a.m. All of it with ingredient lists short enough to read without needing a chemistry degree, and all of it extremely affordable. Now, walk into a 7-Eleven in America. You've got hot dogs that have been rotating on a metal rack since the previous administration. Chips, soda, candy, maybe a sad sandwich wrapped in plastic that technically contains the word turkey. And that's before we even get to the traditional fast food that Japan has had for centuries. A good example is Yoshinoya, one of Japan's most popular fast food chains, which serves gyuden. It is a beef rice bowl, been around since 1899, and the ingredients are the most organic things you will ever think of. Beef, onion, rice, soy sauce, and a few seasonings. That is your typical Japanese fast food. It is what you could easily gulp down in 3 to 5 minutes, but compare that with what America calls fast food, and the gap becomes almost embarrassing. The real difference isn't discipline. It isn't even culture, as powerful as that is. Some even think Japanese people are somehow morally superior because they chose rice over a Whopper. And again, hint of truth, but not entirely so. It's access. When your cheapest, fastest, most convenient option is a rice ball and miso soup, you don't need willpower to eat healthy. But when your cheapest, fastest, most convenient option is a double cheeseburger with fries and a large Coke, willpower is never going to save you. The game was rigged before you even got to the pitch. And when we talk about access, it's about how available, cheap, and healthy food is. Generally, healthy food is cheap in Japan, but very expensive in America. In the US, fast food and junk is relatively cheaper compared to fruits and other fresh produce. Is this because Mother Nature decided that healthy food should be expensive? Actually, no. This was all Uncle Sam. US government policy favors commodity crops, stuff like soy and corn. These are produced in large quantities and traded on the global market. Soybean, corn, and wheat farmers have subsidized farm insurance and also minimum prices guaranteed by the government. So, a corn farmer doesn't need to worry about market demand because however much corn he produces, the government will pay him for it. But if you are a fruit or vegetable farmer, these subsidies don't exist. You are at the mercy of the market. There is no minimum price guarantee. If you produce apples and people decide they actually want avocados, you're screwed. You're stuck with stuff you can't sell. So, a lot of farmers do the logical thing. They grow corn because the price is always guaranteed. If they can't find enough people to buy their corn in the open market, they can always sell it to the government. This naturally leads to the overproduction of subsidized crops like corn, wheat, and soybeans, while unsubsidized crops, which are pretty much everything else we eat, gets underproduced. This is why healthy food is more expensive than crap. Soybean and corn are cheap as hell. Fruits and vegetables are not. But that is just one side of the equation. The other side is this. We have a crap ton of corn, and Americans don't eat that much actual corn. So what do you do with the rest of it? Well, you feed it to cows because corn makes them fat, and fat cows sell for more money than skinny ones. But humans don't really like the taste of corn, especially the stuff we're feeding cows. So what do you do with it? You extract the starch and turn it into high fructose corn syrup. It's basically sugar on steroids. And then you put this high fructose corn syrup in everything. Bread, ketchup, salad dressing, heck, even baby food. Things that have absolutely no business being sweet suddenly became sweet. But doesn't Japan also use high fructose corn syrup? Yes, they do. But the difference is that their government doesn't spend billions subsidizing corn, so they have a lot less of it. Their farm subsidizes go to something else. Take a minute to guess Japan's main character. Off the top of your head, you would go with rice. And yes, that is the obvious answer. Japan protects its domestic rice industry so fiercely that it slaps tariffs up to 700% on imported rice, which tells you everything about how seriously they treat their national staple. And when rice is the crop a government chooses to protect and center its food culture around, the downstream effect is that rice, not corn syrup, becomes the cheap, widely available foundation of daily eating. And you do not want me to even get started on the health benefits as opposed to high fructose corn syrup. And if you are an American, this should make you genuinely angry. But everything we've covered is just sides of the pie. What is Japan's real secret that even the EU has not fully figured out? The answer is Mottainai. And I know that sounds like some hidden Mortal Kombat character. I felt it the moment it rolled down my tongue. Jokes aside, it's a Buddhist concept, and the idea is that something is not being honored or used to its full potential. According to Mottainai, the food on your plate is literally the life of a plant or an animal, and the highest honor you can do to all the poor chickens and rice plants that gave their lives for your dinner is to not waste those lives. Japan doesn't have a leftover culture. You have to finish all the food on your plate, down to the last grain of rice. Kids are literally punished for not finishing their food, so that by the time they become adults, this is ingrained into them. The Japanese ensure that people finish their food by moderating serving sizes. You don't get a mountain of fries as a flex. You get exactly what you can finish in one sitting. Contrast that with America, where a single restaurant entree routinely runs 2 to 3 times a recommended serving size, where supersizing became a selling point, where value got redefined as the maximum amount of food you could physically receive for the minimum amount of money, regardless of what that food was doing to you. Restaurants serve so much food that you can stuff yourself to the brim and still have enough leftovers to fill a doggy bag. This is unheard of in Japan. I could go on, but it's starting to look like I have a personal grudge with certain American outlets, and I'd like to keep things professional, thank you. Even McDonald's tells the story. At Mickey D's in America, a small soda is around 16 ounces, 473 milliliters. But in Japan, they call this the large, and most people get the small and medium sodas. Soda sizes Americans consider a starting point are literally seen as excessive in Japan. The Japanese also don't believe in eating until they're too stuffed to move. They follow the 80% rule. Once they feel sort of satisfied, they stop eating. So even when they eat McDonald's burgers and fries, they're not eating massive amounts of it. So Here we are. We started with a stat that felt almost impossible. 3% gym memberships, 4.5% obesity, and spent this whole time chasing the answer like it was hiding somewhere. And the truth is, it was never one thing. It wasn't just the ingredients. It wasn't just the regulations. It wasn't just the subsidize, or the portion sizes, or the philosophy. It was all of it, working together, quietly in the background, like a system that was actually designed for human beings instead of profit margins. I am going to be as nice as possible with these last words, but the truth is, the question should not be why Japan is healthy. It should be how America looked at all this and called it a food industry.